I was an Asian studies major in college and spent quite a bit of time in China and was around during the height of the one-child policy. And in those situations, in that culture, they had a name for these single children who had two parents and four sets of grandparents and only one child that was the focus. And the term was Xiao Huangdi. They would call them little emperors.
Little emperors.
Right? Because they could have anything they wanted. Even if one parent said no, another parent would say yes. And even if three grandparents said no, there would be one that would say yes. Those kids got whatever they wanted.
By the way, they were mostly little emperors, or more of them than little princesses, weren't they?
Yes. And unfortunately, the gender balance is horribly off.
Which tells you something about what was going on.
That's exactly right.
Behind the scenes.
Yeah.
And it's pretty sad.
Yeah, abortion, infanticide. I worked at a Chinese adoption agency, and overwhelmingly the children that needed to be placed were little girls. So we are not talking about a world where children are the emperors and they get whatever they want. We are talking about a world where the genuine, fundamental, natural rights and the objective well-being of children are elevated and protected by the only group in society powerful enough to do so, and that is adults. The problem is, elevating the rights and well-being of children is going to infringe on adult self-interest. All of the things that we talk about in this book, whether it is a personal decision in the area of family, whether it is sacrificing your own desire for access to whatever porn you want in whatever way you want, in whatever channel that you want it, whether it is kicking the can down the road and solving the debt problem, whether it is wanting to have the social acceptance and parroting out the right slogan on immigration so that you can be invited to that cocktail party at the expense of today's children, both our own nation's children and the immigrant children, whatever it is, putting kids first is going to interfere with adult self-interest. It is adult self-interest that is leading to the child victimization and the child harm that we are seeing. So it is going to take a certain demographic of adults who are going to protect them. And it is the ones who are going to say, I am going to put them before us. I am going to put the kids first. I am going to do hard things in my personal life, in my voting life, in the policies that I advance at whatever level of authority that I can advance. I'm going to put the kids first. It means that adults are going to have to sacrifice. And that is challenging. So not every adult is going to do it. A lot of the reason why children are in the hard places they are now is because adults refuse to. So we need an army of adults to rise up who will say, children are being victimized. I am going to be their ally and I'm going to be their champion. And if we do that, we will not only get individual child thriving, we will get national thriving. And I would argue there is no other path to national thriving than putting them before us.
I think you've just answered my last two questions. I was going to ask you, what would adults be most shocked to find out that they don't have a right to?
Well, if you want to talk about natural rights, that's challenging because we don't have a whole lot of fundamental natural rights. You have a right to life. You have a right, well, they're listed in the Bill of Rights. That was largely a document built off of natural rights. Rights that are not given to you by government, rights that you have that exist pre-government, rights that the government exists to defend. But you don't have a right to parenthood if it means procuring a child that's not biologically yours. You don't necessarily have a right to housing if it means somebody else has to provide it for you. You don't have a right to government-funded birth control. You have some fundamental natural rights. But unfortunately, we have this habit of adults who frame everything that they really, 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 really want as a right. And as a friend in Europe once noted, when everything is a right, nothing is a right. So it's very, very important for us to articulate and understand and defend actual rights, and it clarifies an awful lot. And what we will see is the few rights that adults genuinely have are going to complement and reinforce the few genuine rights that children actually have. So I actually think the rights conversation is very important. I'm not a natural lawyer. We did do a little sketching out of the nature of natural rights in the first chapter of our first book, Them Before Us, if you want sort of the layman's take on natural rights and their importance. But again, just like looking at adults who claim to be the victim, I would say be very skeptical and scrutinize adults who claim that they have a right to this or that if it means they can get what they want at the expense of somebody else.